have different strata, starting from the primary producers to the consumers, and then you go up and up to the detritus system and back into the primary producers again, because the primary producers actually need the nutrients which can be given by the detritus food chain. But what is ecology? Ecology is a branch of science which deals with the study of interrelationship between biotic and abiotic components of nature, as well as the relationship among the individuals of the biotic component. So it is actually this ecology and ecosystem is one merges into the other, and you can see that as one merges into the other, both are interdependent on each other. So the term ecology can be defined actually by two Greek words. Okios means house and logos means study of, to denote the relationship between the organisms and their environment. So we will go directly into the classification of ecology, and then we will categorize the ecologies, different types of ecology, before we go into the description of the different parts of ecology. So modern ecologists have broadened the definition of ecology, considering all the fundamental aspects in the subject. And it has been found that the domain is very, very vast, and it cannot be concerned or confined with the limited discussion. So it constitutes agriculture, horticulture, conservation of soil, wildlife, forest, water resources. So it has a contribution. All the biotic factors has a contribution. Abiotic factors has a contribution towards the survival of the biotic part of the environment. So what are the objectives of ecology? Why do people study ecology? The important concepts discussed below throw light on various aspects of ecology. So you have ecology depends upon the local and geographical distribution, and you must be knowing that the habitat, the distribution of organisms depend on the local and geographical distribution. So how is the terrain? What are the forests present there? How can an organism survive if it is present there? Is it suitable for its survival? Whether the temperature is something which it can get acclimatized to. So these are all things which actually determine the abundance of organism in certain areas. So a polar bear might not be found in a tropical land, because all the conditions which are needed for the survival of the polar bear is not found in a tropical region. Then you come to the temporal changes in the occurrence, abundance and activities of organisms. So here also climate plays a very important part. So organisms which actually live in the equatorial forest, if the rain stops out there, then those organisms will not survive and you will have nil activity of those organisms. So the geographical, the climatic factors determines where you will have an abundance of a certain organism and another where you will have a scarcity of it. Then comes the population ecology, which is the interrelationship between organisms in population and communities. So population, relationship in population and communities. What is population? Population is actually certain species of organisms living together. But what is the community? Community may contain many different types of species living together. So that is population ecology, and many different types of species also supports the survival of a certain species or a particular species. If you go down to the ecosystem, you will be finding that all the strata in the ecosystem is interdependent on each other. And what type of interdependence is it? The type of interdependence is that the primary producer actually supports the whole ecological pyramid. So how does it support? If the primary producers were not there, you will not have the primary consumers. If the primary consumers are not there, you won't have the secondary consumers, and so on and so forth. Then comes the structural adaptation and functional adjustment of organisms to their physical environment. This is very, very important. So this has a very good example also. Just think of the COVID-19 virus. It has adapted itself and adjusted so that it can survive. For near about now 3 to 4 months it is surviving, and it is surviving in different geographical distribution, different climatic conditions, and it has adapted itself in such a way that it will again survive for another 3 to 4 months. So here is an example which is propagating, destroying, and it is just evolving. The behavior of organism under natural conditions. So if an organism is placed in its natural condition, how it will behave? If there is no stress condition, if there is no other conditions which are changing the natural conditions, the behavior of an organism, that is known as ethology. Then comes the evolutionary development of all these interrelationships. So that is evolutionary ecology. And this again, this COVID-19 virus is evolving. It has undergone around more than 200 mutations so as to survive. And last is the biological productivity of nature and its relationship with mankind. Remember one thing, that mankind needs everything in its optimal level. It is not like other organisms who can hunt, who are predators. The mankind can do nothing. It has to have all its resources and everything under optimal level for it to survive. Then comes the development of mathematical models to relate interactions of parameters and to predict effects. So if someone has done a study on, suppose, malaria or dengue, and found that what are the parameters which actually leads to the propagation of the disease, or parameters which are favorable for the propagation of this typical type of virus or the bacteria. And if you study and if you see these parameters actually determine its survival, then you can predict whether it will again appear or again come into survival if the same conditions are present. So nowadays we know that dengue loves humidity and a high temperature. So as long as there is a low temperature and less of humidity, dengue will not prevail. So this comes from the system analysis. Next comes the conservation and management of natural resources and pollution. So this is very, very important, because if you cannot conserve and manage your natural resources and your pollution level, no organisms of the biotic part of the environment will survive. Because pollution actually is a factor about whom we know nothing. what type of pollutants affect us, how do they affect us, what are the new pollutants that are appearing, and what are their effects, nobody knows. So the conservation and management of natural resources is one thing. If the natural resources are conserved and managed, you will have something called sustainable development. And combined with active whereabouts of knowledge of pollution will help in the survival of the living organisms, and this is known as applied ecology. Now if you classify ecology, you will have actually a plant ecology and an animal ecology. But besides this, you have lots of classification of ecology. It can be also classified as autoecology or synecology. So what is autoecology? It deals with the ecological study of one species of organism, and synecology deals with the ecological studies of communities or the entire ecosystems. So synecology has a broader spectrum compared to autoecology, but if you combine several autoecologies, you can go down to synecology. Now classification of ecology, as I said, that ecology has lots and lots of classification, since it actually tells you about the interactions of the biotic environment with the abiotic environments, how the biotic environments determine the survival of the biotic environments, what are the relationship between the biotic environments which is leading to the improvement, development and evolution. So first comes habitat ecology. Here you must be knowing that there are two terms known as habitat and niche. Niche is actually where it's an idea. Niche is a place where no one lives, but habitat is a place on the planet Earth where organisms live. So it's a realistic situation. It deals with ecological study of different habitats on planet Earth and their effects on the organisms living there. Next is community ecology. So you can understand now what is habitat ecology. This is the habitat of the lion, this is the habitat of the tiger. So these are all habitat ecology. So community ecology is the study of the local distribution of animals in various habitats. So from habitat, if you go to a community, you will have all types of organisms living in their respective habitats, but all combined together. And it is related with recognition and composition of community units and succession. Next comes population ecology, which we have just discussed. So population ecology is also known as demonology. It deals with the study of the pattern of growth, structure and regulation of a population of organisms. If you remember in the introduction to environmental pollution, we have studied something called population dynamics, where how population will grow in a region can be determined. So we had two types of models. One was an exponential growth model, which was not dependent on anything, it just grew. But there was a logistic model of population where the population dependent on the amount of natural resources present. So here also you see it's a study of the pattern of growth, the structure and regulation. So you had something called maximum sustainable yield, if you remember. So the maximum sustainable yield came when the carrying capacity was just half. So you can relate this population dynamics with population ecology. The population ecology also deals with interactions between populations of different species in a community. So suppose you have lots and lots of herbivores. So where lots and lots of herbivores are present, there will be a preponderance of carnivores also. So you must understand that if the herbivores are not there, there will be no more carnivores. Because why should they come out there? Because if they do not have anything to feed on. Again, where there are lots of plants, trees, bushes or vegetation, the herbivores will be in greater quantity. Then comes evolutionary ecology. It is considered the problems of niche segregation and speciation, followed by taxonomic ecology. It is related with ecology of different taxonomic groups of living organisms. So this is very much applicable if you go to a marine ecosystem. So there are different taxonomic groups out there of living organisms. Then comes human ecology. It's mainly related to population ecology. It deals with the interaction between man and man along with the environment. Effects of human beings in the biosphere and the implications of these effects for mankind is the subject matter of human ecology. Next comes applied ecology. So we have just studied applied ecology and come over here. So that is you study the natural resources, you study the pollution, then we find pure wildlife management, forestry, conservation, insect control, animal husbandry, aquaculture, agriculture, horticulture, land use, population. So applied ecology encompasses most of the things of ecology. And then we come to a very important or interesting thing which is known as ecosystem dynamics. So how the ecosystem will actually control itself. Soil formation. Just see what is soil formation. If soil is not formed properly, you will not have your vegetation. If vegetation is not there, vegetation plants are the only source in nature which can actually trap sunlight and produce energy. And this energy flows from the primary producers to the primary consumers, secondary consumers, and so on. So if you do not have vegetation, there will be no energy flow and no productivity. The plants are the organisms, living organisms, which are totally involved in your productivity. So you will not have anything of productivity if you fail with the ecosystem dynamics. Then comes production ecology. Here also it is totally dependent on the ecosystems like fresh water, seawater, agriculture, horticulture, etc. The gross and net production in the different ecosystems. And production ecology attempts to, for the effective management of the ecosystem, so as to maximize the production. So you will go, as you go through the slides, you will find there's something called net productivity. So a plant produces food, energy. So if the thing that remains, or the energy part which remains, the food part which remains after it has used for its consumption, is net productivity, and if that net productivity is released into the ecosystem. Then comes ecological energetics. It deals with an energy conservation and its flow in the organism within the ecosystem. Then comes physiological ecology, which is ecophysiology. The factors of environment have direct relation with the fundamental aspects of the organism. The ecophysiological deals with the survival of the population as well as the functional adjustments of organisms with different ecological conditions. Ecological energetics is very, very important because energy, you're going to first have thermodynamics. Energy should be conserved. It can be created but never be destroyed, but can be converted from one form to the another. So you will have to understand ecological energetics, and this ecological energetics will actually determine the physiological ecology, that is the functional aspects of the organism. And chemical ecology is adaptation of animals, a preference of particular organism, insects to particular chemical substances. So this is a part of your pollination and your fertilization of plants. And this also applies to insects when they actually go in and sit on some food, because actually their path is determined by the smell of that food. Okay. Then comes ecological genetics, and ecology recognizes this kind of genetic plasticity in the case of every organism. In any environment, only those organisms that are supported by the environment can survive. Okay. Thus, gynecology deals with study of variation of species based on their genetic potentialities. So interbreeding. So interbreeding is a part of your ecological genetics. So you have plasticity, so that you can go for a diversification. So there are many types of hybrid organisms, hybrid plants, which are just as a part of your ecological genetics. Then paleoecology, environmental conditions and life of the past ages. This is a historical aspect and tells you why organisms or certain species survived and other species actually got extinct. And then comes geographic ecology. It focuses light on study of geographical distribution of animals and plants. So this is very much related to your geography in your lower classes. Then comes space ecology, that is the develop partial wholly generating ecosystems for supporting the life of man during long space flights. This space ecology also gave us an idea that there are certain microorganisms which can be found in space as well as on the Earth's surface, because these microorganisms have certain relatives in space. So this is also space ecology. Pedology is the formation of soil, and radiation ecology is the gross effect of radiation, radioactive substances over the environment and living organisms. So the next three are the ethology, the sociology, and the system ecology. So system ecology you have studied, that where you can make mathematical models and predict. And sociology, everybody knows ecology and ethology of mankind. And ethology is the animal behavior under natural conditions. So then we come to something called ecological factors that constitute the environment of an organism. Some of the major ecological factors that constitute the environment of an organism are as follows: climatic factors, edaphic factors, topographic factors, biotic factors, and limiting factors. So first of all, we will go into the first two, that is climatic factors and edaphic factors. So what are climatic factors? Climatic factors include light, temperature, water, rainfall, humidity, atmospheric gases, topography or the altitude, the direction of mountain chains and valleys, steepness and exposure of sleep. So these are all geographic factors which you have studied in your lower classes, and all of them determine the ecological factors that constitute whether the organism will survive there or will not survive there or will move to some other place so as to survive and have a healthy life. And then you have the edaphic factors. Edaphic factors constitute the formation of soil, its physical and chemical properties, and details of related aspects. Biotic factors are all kinds of interactions between different forms of life. They are plants, the animals, the microorganisms, etc. Then comes what are edaphic factors? These different aspects of soil, such as the structure and composition of soil, its physical and chemical features. A galaxy of complex factors constitutes the soil. So you have mineral matter, you have soil organic matter, you have soil water, soil solution, soil atmosphere, biological system. Whatever biological systems are very much adaptable to the soils. The atmosphere is such that it can lead to it can help actually to the survival of these organisms and not other organisms, because these organisms are very much acclimatized and adjusted to this atmosphere. And then you have the soil water, how much of the soil water is present, how much it can retain, how much we can take it from it, and how much is needed for the survival of the organisms. Then come how is soil formed. This is a part of your lower class geography. So you have weathering of the parent rock and maturation and profile development. So the parent rock gets expansion during the day and contracts during the night. Then comes the rain, the wind, and actually there's soil erosion, and this erosion breaks the mountain rocks into small pieces. It takes millions of years, and then these are carried by the water and again it's broken and into smaller pieces due to friction, due to the flow of water, until it is actually grounded to the from soil. And then when the river flows, it just deposits the soil, or which is known as alluvium, on both of its sides, and you will find what you call soil. So you have soil classification done on the basis of transporting agents: colluvial, alluvial, glacial, that is by glaciers, large masses of snow, etc. You must be knowing that snow is also a very good eroding agent. And aeolian is by wind. Thus the classification of soil has been made on the basis of combination of climatic, vegetation and soil morphology. So why soil should be conserved? It is for you to answer. Soil should be conserved because you need the primary producers, and if there is no soil, if the soil has no nutrients, nothing, etc., then you will have no soil conservation. So the primary producers won't grow, and if you do not have the primary producers, the ecosystem fails. So you have to do a lot of things to actually conserve the soil, protection of soil from the severity of raindrops, to prevent water from concentrating and passing through the slopes, slow down the moment of water flow through various scientific techniques, to plan out methods by which water can be adequately entered into soil, growing vegetation cover, and thereby to minimize the wind velocity. So if you have lots of trees, lots of plants, so if the wind flows through, it will be actually facing a resistance and the wind flow will just reduce. And you have soil barriers like growth of grasses can prevent soil erosion, etc. Definitely it was